one of the most crucial elections in D.C. history. After more than a decade, Mayor Muriel Bowser will step aside.
I also know voters start taking a hard look and saying, you know, we like you, we love you, but who's next?
Making way for new leadership, a crowded field of candidates in the district's first election with ranked choice voting.
Why do I want to be mayor? Because I love this city.
That's why I'm running for mayor, to protect all of D.C. residents.
The job won't be easy. There are plenty of issues to tackle, from crime to housing to home rule.
I'm determined to make Washington, D.C. safe, clean, and beautiful again.
You get to decide who leads D.C.'s next chapter. Tonight, our focus is on Ward 7 and issues facing all 8 wards. This is the Ward 7 Democratic primary debate.
And thank you for joining us this evening on WUSA9. I'm Lorenzo Hall. Our big focus tonight, the issues that matter to you and solutions. So this debate is hosted by the Ward 7 Democrats, and tonight we are joined by dozens of Ward 7 residents. Let's give it up for Ward 7. Come on. So before we begin, here's how tonight's format will work. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. If a candidate is mentioned by name or if I believe clarification is needed, there will be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal. Now, there are 7 candidates running for D.C. mayor, but tonight only 2 have qualified for this debate. To make the stage, candidates must be certified by the district's Fair Elections program. That includes meeting tough public financing standards, like securing at least 1,000 qualifying donations. Candidates must also have at least 100 individual contributors from Ward 7, each giving a minimum of $5. So with that said, the stage is set. Let's meet the candidates. We have Janeese Lewis George and Kenyan McDuffie. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so based on a coin toss, it was decided Janeese Lewis George will deliver her opening statement first. Ms. Lewis George, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ward 7. I'm Janeese Lewis George, a proud third-generation Washingtonian, a proud D.C. public school graduate, and graduate of Howard Law. And I'm running for mayor to do what I've done as an organizer, what I've done as a prosecutor, and what I've done as a council member. And that's put people first. This campaign is about a simple question. Who do you trust to show up and fight for all of our residents in all 8 wards, including Ward 7? Who do you trust to address this affordability crisis where housing and utilities and childcare are too expensive? Well, I have been able to fight against rent hikes, against residents and seniors. I've been able to block utility shutoffs when Pepco overcharged us. I've been able to put money in the pockets of people by expanding the earned income tax credit as well as the pay equity fund for early childhood educators. Who do you trust to stand up against Trump? I have introduced legislation to end cooperation between MPD and ICE. I've walked the halls of Congress myself, building relationships in the House and in Senate to ensure that we are filibuster-proof and have the leverage we need to protect our laws from being overturned. And I've been in the streets with D.C. residents protecting our immigrant families and our Black youth. Who do you trust to just make sure basic government services work for you? I have stood in the halls of Sousa Middle School and Plummer Elementary when those brilliant educators and students deserved an HVAC system that worked and not having mildew carpets. I stood in the garden at Marvin Gaye when 4 agencies pointed fingers at each other and no one wanted to take responsibility for that space being clean and safe. And I made government work for you. And so I'm going to show up the same way, Ward 7, to make sure you have grocery stores and access to health care and make sure that you have good quality schools, because that's what a people first mayor does. Right. So I look forward to this conversation tonight.
Ms.
Thank you.
George, thank you. Mr. McDuffie, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you, Channel 9. And thank you, Ward 7. I am Kenyan McDuffie. I'm a 4th-generation Washingtonian. I am running for this seat as mayor of the District of Columbia because I love this city. I grew up in this city. In a small neighborhood in the Northeast called Stronghold. I did not graduate from college right away. I actually graduated from high school and I worked. I worked carrying mail for the United States Postal Service. I saved up money, went to UDC, went to Howard University, and became the first man in my family to graduate from college. And from there, I went on to work for Congressman Eleanor Holmes North, our warrior on the Hill, where I learned to fight to protect our home rule in D.C. I made sure that we advocated for statehood, seeing her fight for statehood for the District of Columbia. And then from there, I went on to law school, became a prosecutor, where I fought crime and delivered justice for victims. And then I went on to work in President Obama's Justice Department, traveling the country, fighting to protect people's civil rights. And then from there, I went to work for Mayor Gray, where I worked in protecting public safety across the District of Columbia and became a council member. So I spent the last decade fighting for residents across the District of Columbia, making sure that we were fighting discrimination in housing and employment, passing transformational bills like the Neighborhood Engagement Achieved Results Act that ushered in a public health-based approach to crime prevention and intervention, making sure that we are doing opportunity when it comes to things like baby bonds, making sure that we are fighting for people who need things across the District of Columbia. And I'm wanting to be mayor because I'm going to fight and deliver for all DC. That means all 8 wards, all 700,000 residents. And with all those jobs that I've had, Lorenzo has taught me that leadership isn't measured by what you say, it's measured by what you do. I've spent 13 and a half years at the council fighting and delivering for residents, and I plan to do that as the next mayor of the District of Columbia.
Okay, Mr. McDuffie, thank you. Let's get started. So we know that D.C. is facing a number of issues right now, from the budget to federal job losses and public safety. A number of Ward 7 residents reached out to me with concerns about affordability and housing, so we're going to start with that. When it comes to housing, I know that you both have some pretty ambitious plans. Mr. McDuffie, you're pledging 12,000 new housing units by 2030. Ms. Lewis George, 72,000 in 5 years. Given D.C.'s budget gap and high costs right now, why is your approach realistic? And what's the biggest risk in your opponent's plan? Please be specific. Mr. McDuffie, we'll start with you.
Sure, my plan calls for 12,000 units of housing by 2030. We're going to make sure that we preserve 20,000 units of housing, and we're going to build 1,500 new units of family-size housing because not enough people who have families can afford to live in the District of Columbia. What we need to do is build more housing and build it faster across incomes so that more people can live in the District of Columbia. We need to make sure that that's part of our economic growth strategy, but we do it with guardrails so that we're not displacing anybody in the District of Columbia. Everybody should be able to live in the District of Columbia, whether you own and operate the business or you work at the front desk. And that's what our plan is designed to do. The Washington Post knows that our plan is realistic. The Washington Post actually called my opponent's plan unrealistic because there's no way that she's going to build 72,000 units of housing. At our best, when we had hundreds of millions of dollars in the Housing Production Trust Fund, we built on average 5,500 units of housing during those years.
All right, Mr. McDuffie, thank you. Ms. Lewis George.
Thank you. This housing crisis we're in the city requires a mayor who's going to be ambitious about making sure that we can deliver for DC residents who have been displaced out of this city because of the lack of affordable housing. My plan calls for us to build more housing, to build better housing, and to build more near transit centers as well. It calls for us to really take into account how we're not only going to build housing, but how we protect and preserve the housing we do have now using our dollars for preservation. And it also does what other jurisdictions like Montgomery County is doing, taking advantage of the fact that we have to build deeply affordable housing as a city ourselves. We spent $1.4 billion in housing, and we have not, and we're deeper in the hole on deeply affordable housing than we were before. The problem with my opponent's plan is it's not ambitious enough. It doesn't meet the moment. It doesn't meet the crisis, and we need a leader who's ready to do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have a follow-up for both of you, starting with you, Ms. Lewis George. A lot of folks are asking, how do you pay for this plan? You're talking 72,000 in 5 years. What does the payment look like?
Absolutely. We're going to do several things. We're going to leverage our federal dollars. Last year, we gave back $34 million to HUD that we were supposed to use to build affordable housing. We have been granted through the Inflation Reduction Act by Biden $60 million for sustainability. We've only used $3 million of that $60 million, and it expires in 2029. So we're going to leverage those millions of dollars that we've left on the table to build more affordable housing. We're going to close loopholes that benefit Virginia and Maryland and not DC residents. And we're not going to do that by taxing hard-working DC families. We're going to leverage the dollars we have and make it work more for DC residents.
Mr. McDuffie, 30 seconds.
Leadership's not measured by what you say, it's measured by what you do. I've already delivered transformational bills that have sent hundreds of millions of dollars to our Housing Production Trust Fund. And if you add up the numbers she just talked about $100 million from the federal government, if it ever comes, it's only going to buy you about 100 units of affordable housing because right now it costs too much to build in Washington, D.C. The lowest numbers say that it costs about $750,000 per each public affordable housing unit in the District of Columbia. That's never going to happen. You're never going to get 72,000 units of housing. It is rhetoric. It is not reality.
Ms. Lewis
I'm
George,
delivering reality.
Do you care to respond?
I do. When Marion Barry said that he was going to make sure that all residents, youth in this city were going to have summer youth jobs. People said it was rhetoric, it was impossible, and he made it happen. When Vince Gray said that he was going to make sure that we had pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 in this city, everybody said it was rhetoric, it couldn't happen, and he made it happen. That's what leaders do. They set ambitious plans and they make it happen. Every mayor has done that, and that's why I'm ready to be the mayor right now, because I know the tools that it's going to take to make us deliver on this housing crisis, and I know how important it is for our Black seniors and our young people in this city.
Mr. McDuffie, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you. Those people that she just named were ambitious, but they also made sure that they worked with people to get things done. And they had a track record on the council of delivering. The difference between them and her, she has no track record on the council of delivering anything in the last 5 years that she's been here. What I have is a track record of delivering things around affordable housing, making sure that we have money in the Housing Production Trust Fund. I delivered a bill that says anytime you dispose of land in the District of Columbia for housing, you have to have a set aside for affordable housing. I have a track record of delivering. I have a bold idea that we can actually deliver on day one.
Mr. McDuffie,
Can I
thank you.
respond to those allegations?
Please.
Yeah, I have a track record of making sure my things are actually funded, passed, and implemented. I have delivered to make sure that our paid educators, our early childhood educators, had a raised the wages for early childhood educators through my pay equity fund. The earned income tax credit, those families are getting money every single day, every month because of that. I delivered to make sure librarians were in all of our schools. I made sure Safe Routes to School Act applied to all of our schools and made sure it was funded and implemented. Clean collections, abandoned vehicles. My opponent talks about his bills. He never had them funded. They've never been implemented, so they don't even count.
We have a lot to get to. Let's continue. So the median household income in Ward 7 is about $71,000, well below the citywide average of $110,000. What specific policies will you implement to ensure new and preserved housing is affordable to residents at that income level, $71,000, and how many units will actually reach them in Ward 7? Ms. Lewis George, I'll start with you.
That's a great question. This is where it comes on us to start building the housing we need. Why? Because the housing market right now, we're just relying on the market alone. And for our housing providers, they're working really hard to try to create more affordable housing, but they have to center profit at the end of it. As a government, we don't have to center profit. We can actually use dollars, right? And what I'm talking about is using those dollars, creating the mixed income housing we need, 30% below deeply affordable, 70% for our AMI residents and market rate. And we're able to recycle those rents back into creating and producing more affordable housing. We also can give those dollars as well to people who could create community land trusts and our community organizations who build those housing together. So what I'm talking about is government stepping up and being a part of creating the deeply affordable housing we need, and then incentivizing our housing providers to do the same by lowering the cost it costs for many of them to build in the city and lowering the cost for many of them to be able to build more in this city and allowing more density around our city for them to build that. And that's what's going to give us the housing we need in this moment to meet the needs of working class families in this city.
Mr. McDuffie.
So we're going to make sure that we build more housing, and we're going to build it faster. We're going to actually cut out all the red tape around some of the zoning that's in place that's keeping it from being more dense. We're going to build more townhomes. We're going to make sure we're building more multifamily across the District of Columbia. We're going to build in those high-need wards that haven't really had their fair share of housing over the years. We, in today's D.C., are still reeling from a city that is largely concentrated wealth in certain parts of the city and poverty in other parts of the city. Ward 7 and 8 have showed a lot of affordable housing over the years. We need to make sure that we're building more of it across the District of Columbia. We're going to lower the barriers and red tape to be able to do that, create a fast lane in the District of Columbia that cuts permit times in half to make sure that the people who want to build can do so we get the housing we need across incomes so that everybody can afford to live here. The reality is right now, though, in D.C., housing providers aren't building. They're not building because people like my opponent have decided to vote against the Rental Act, which help facilitate the ability to build housing in the District of Columbia. And we want to make sure that we are delivering on the ability for folks to actually build.
Do you care to respond, Mr. George?
You know what the Rental Act had in it, a key piece of legislation that I think Black D.C. residents need to understand. It cut our Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act rights for families in multifamily buildings. And where are the most multifamily buildings? In Ward 7. around the RFK Stadium, which means many of those DC residents who used to have leverage, who paid into those apartment buildings, when they are going to be forced to be moved out because people are going to want to flip those buildings, they no longer have rights or leverage. And so, yes, I voted against it because I believe in preserving tenants' rights and fighting for Black DC residents to not to be displaced in a city that we built.
Thank you. All right, so Pepco, Ms. Lewis George, we want to start with you on this one. You introduced emergency legislation that passed in late March to pause Pepco shutoffs for 90 days for residents and businesses owing $1,000 or less. Mayor Bowser calls it bad policy. So, Ms. Lewis George, how will this help residents in the long term?
Yeah. You know what is bad policy? It's the fact that we have allowed utility bills. DC is one of the jurisdictions who have allowed utility rates to go up every single year. We have one of the highest utility rates in this country happening. That's bad policy, right? And so what we're going to do is expand community solar, expand solar on buildings, expand solar, so balconies and others, and that's going to generate enough energy so we have energy credits that's going to lower utility bills. We're going to use every legal tool we have and use our regional relationships to fight the data AI center in Virginia that's pulling on our grid right now. We're going to allow residents to opt into affordable utility options and allow them to have more options. And so that is the better policy for people to be able to afford utility bills in this city. And unlike my opponent who had oversight over the the Office of Commission for Public Service, he's allowed those rates to go up every single year, did not provide oversight, and then has taken money from Pepco executives even now and had more Pepco meetings than any other council member in the council.
Mr. McDuffie, would you have voted for this policy if you were still on council, or do you agree with Mayor Bowser that it's bad policy?
What I'm saying is you have to watch what people do, Lorenzo, not just what they say. She's consistently voted against projects that would allow for more housing, and she voted against evicting tenants convicted of violent crimes. And now she wants to talk about utilities. The public service commissioners, she voted for every single one of them who came before her, not once but twice. And on the 5 years she's been on the council, she hasn't delivered anything to lower costs until she declared her candidacy for mayor. This is about action. I've provided oversight, and I've never seen her at a single hearing that I've held holding the Public Service Commission accountable. What I'm going to do is hold data centers accountable, because most of the bill increase that people are experiencing right now, it's not about the Public Service Commission or Pepco. It's about those data centers largely located in Virginia, and less so in Maryland. We have very few data centers in Washington, D.C., so we need to make sure we're holding those data centers accountable to pay their fair share. We also need to make sure we're auto-enrolling low-income people in the policies that allow them to be able to pay their utilities.
Mr. McDuffie, thank you. Ms. Lewis George, do you care to respond?
You know, I think this is one of the key differences between myself and my opponent, which is the lack of integrity here. The question of whether, when I voted on evictions, that was during the pandemic, when we were telling people to stay at home because it was a health crisis. And we decided that if residents need to stay at home, they need to actually be in homes. And so during evictions, during a pandemic crisis where health was on the line for millions of DC residents, was not the smartest thing to do, and he knows that. He also knows that I was actually at his hearing for the Public Service Commission, because when we were fighting really hard to make sure that the rates of ratepayers did not go up, and I wrote a letter to him and to the commission saying that the same way.
Do you care to respond?
We froze evictions during the pandemic. Everybody supported it, right? We ended utility shutoffs during the pandemic. What I'm saying is, after the pandemic had already left us, her votes still reflect a lack of progress and actually stymieing the ability to keep people safe in Washington, D.C., to build more affordable housing in Washington, D.C., and to create the jobs that businesses need and that our residents need in Washington, D.C. What I'm saying is, I'm going to be a mayor for all the people across the District of Columbia.
Thank you. Let's continue. We know that D.C. is struggling with childcare costs right now. One of D.C.'s largest affordable early learning programs closed 2 centers in Ward 7 due to what they call fiscal challenges. Mayor Bowser wants to move away from the pay equity fund, which childcare advocates fear will lead to higher costs or closures. Mr. McDuffie, what is your plan?
I think that's a mistake for the mayor to move away from it. We need to make sure that we prioritize reducing costs for residents who are working hard to make the ends meet. And right now, it is unaffordable to live in the District of Columbia. We need to prioritize the pay equity fund and continue to do things that work, like pay equity. We also need to make sure we're prioritizing the child care subsidies and PKEEP. If I'm mayor, we're going to prioritize that in the budget that I build to send to the council. I'm going to fight like heck to protect it once it gets there.
Ms. Lewis George, your plan.
Yeah, we have the highest cost of childcare in the country here in D.C. And my plan is to create universal access to childcare. And that means that we are going to expand our childcare subsidy so that no family has to pay more than 7% of their income on childcare. And we're going to do that by expanding our childcare subsidy program that we already do now and making everyone eligible for it. And we're going to expand access to centers. So we're going to dual locate centers at spaces where we have schools to be able to do that, like we have at Bunker Hill and Ideal. And we're going to make sure our early childhood educators get paid the same benefits and salaries that educators across our district do. And I think this is a shift change because when I introduced in 2021 the Homes and Hearts Amendment that created the Pay Equity Fund, my colleague next to me voted against it. When the child tax credit was in his committee and we needed to move it through, he would not push it through his committee. So we had to go on the other side of this and do it during budget. So I'm glad now that he recognizes that early childhood education is a priority. He is now for it, but his actions in the council do not show that.
Mr. McDuffie, would you like to respond?
Sure. The difference between me and my opponent is that I've led on issues, I've authored bills, and I've done transformational things in Washington, D.C. to change the odds for hardworking people and families. When it comes to the bill she just talked about, it was no bill. It was a budget amendment. And Charles Allen led the charge on that. She hitched her wagon to it. And the reality is, it was a tax increase that I voted against because there was no hearing or no transparency around that. And so that's what I'm going to make sure that I bring to government is increased transparency and let people in the District of Columbia participate in the process. Let's use the people's resources for the people's priorities.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk about public safety now. That is another big issue in this city. Mr. McDuffie, we know that you helped establish the Office of Racial Equity. That same office, in its racial equity impact assessment on juvenile curfews, concluded in part reliance on increased police surveillance to enforce juvenile curfews will exacerbate racial inequity for Black district youth. Do you support those findings? And if so, how do you pair that with your support for juvenile curfews?
Thank you for lifting up one of the transformational bills that I actually authored and got passed through the council. The Racial Equity Achieves Results Act established a racial equity lens on the work that the council does. When it comes to juvenile curfews, doing nothing is not an option. I would vote to extend the curfew as a temporary means to make sure that we're stopping the hemorrhaging. Doing nothing allows hundreds of kids to descend on areas like the Navy Yard where they risk their own safety and they put others at risk as well. We've already heard the stories about kids coming down there with guns and arrests being made, shots being fired. I'm not going to wait for a tragedy to happen in the Navy Yard or the Wharf or U Street or anywhere else. I'm going to make sure that we extend the curfew, but I'm also going to put in place a youth engagement strategy as mayor so we have interagency coordination both with MPD, DYRS, Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, as well as DPR, DOES, so that we can engage these young folks around work and proactively make sure that they have the services and programs they need in their communities.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis George, you do not support curfews, so what is the alternative?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I want to make clear that this is why showing up and being on the ground matters. Because when I showed up to Navy Yard Station and I saw young people as young as 7 years old going up the escalator, and at the top of those escalators were armed individuals with military individuals with guns, and that's what our young people were seeing coming up the escalator. And they were enforcing what we have put in place in this curfew. And so, yes, I voted for the curfew tool when we weren't federally occupied. But as an executive, you got to choose when to use the tools you have. And to me, right now, using these tools, when we have ICE in our city, when we have federal law enforcement troops in our city, when we have federal agents from different agencies who don't have oversight from the district government, who are not trained in de-escalation, by giving them this opportunity, we are creating a very real risk of harm and to our Black youth in this city and to all of our families in this city. So for me, we don't use that tool. We use the tools we know work, like after-school programming, like DPR, extended hours. Those are the things that work.
All right, so we know DC installed more than 500 traffic cameras as part of Vision Zero, yet the city still did not meet its goal of eliminating traffic deaths by 2024. So should the city add more cameras, keep levels where they are now, or scale back? Ms. Lewis George, we'll start with you.
Yeah, traffic fatalities are a very real issue, and they disproportionately impact residents in Ward 7, 8, 5, and across this city. And I have had to meet the parents of young children who have been hit by vehicles and killed. And so for me, we have to address this issue with urgency. And that means using every tool. Automated traffic enforcement is a tool, but isn't the only tool, right? Smart engineering of our streets is a better tool that we can utilize. Making sure that we work regionally with our partners, regional partners, because the reason why our bills are so high, why the tickets are so high, is because our district is trying to make up for the money we don't get from Virginia and Maryland drivers because we don't have reciprocity. So my plan is to work with Maryland and Virginia leaders to create the reciprocity that we need so we can hold their drivers who drive in our city accountable and lower the cost for those traffic tickets because we're no longer making up for it. And I will make sure we fund the STEER Act, which this current budget takes away, which is how our Attorney General comes after bad drivers who are keeping our streets unsafe right now.
Ms. Lewis George, thank you. Mr. McDuffie.
Sure. I'm going to make sure that we prioritize safety first and foremost. It's absolutely the top priority of any city that needs to grow like the District of Columbia. And we're not going to ticket our way to Vision Zero. We have to invest in it and take it seriously. One of the things that people are suffering from right now when it comes to the automated traffic cameras is that it's disproportionately weighted to people who live in communities that are already trying to struggle to make the ends meet. We have to make sure that, and I'm going to do this in the first 100 days as mayor, we're going to review every single camera in the District of Columbia to make sure it prioritizes safety first. If it's not about safety, it's coming down. But we're going to make sure that we are putting the resources behind Vision Zero so once and for all we can end the type of crashes that are harming people across the District of Columbia. That's the problem. We need to make sure that we create an office focused on Vision Zero so that we can achieve it and have the type of smart design across roads that disproportionately impact people in Ward 7 and 8. We need to make sure that we understand the challenges that they're facing when it comes to road safety and prioritize Vision Zero.
So both of you have said you end MPD's collaboration with federal agencies as it pertains to immigration enforcement. We know that federal agents are still working with MPD. They're even part of roll call in some cases. So when it comes to tackling crime, what does this collaboration look like under your administration? Mr. McDuffie, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to divest from the police like my opponent. What I'm going to do is invest in policing in the District of Columbia to make sure that it is community oriented. The same work that I did as a civil rights attorney in President Obama's Justice Department, making sure that we provide the resources to our Metropolitan Police Department. We're going to hire 1,000 new officers. We're going to make sure that we boost morale by decreasing overtime, which also saves us money. If you look at the separation reports right now at MPD, way too many of them are leaving because of burnout, and that's a problem. We don't need to collaborate with ICE or HSI, and we don't need the National Guard here. Frankly, those federal law enforcement agencies have eroded trust across the District of Columbia, and we need to work hard to build that back up. So on day one, I'm going to rescind an order that allows for the cooperation between ICE and the Metropolitan Police Department. I'm going to ensure that we have safe communities across the District of Columbia, regardless of where you live, and I have a track record of actually doing that through transformational policies like the Neighborhood Engagement Achieves Results Act.
All right, Ms. Lewis George.
Thank you. When I authored legislation to end cooperations with MPD and ICE, because I showed up and I was on the ground and watched my community and members being kidnapped from my community, taken by ICE into ICE detention centers, and families not knowing where they were. And so it is important for me that on day one this happens, and we ensure that it happens across the board. But for public safety, for me, as you know, I am a former prosecutor, and I'm one of the only candidate who prosecuted here in the District of Columbia in D.C. Superior Court. And for me, we need to do enforcement, intervention, and prevention work at the same time. And we can do that. And enforcement for me looks like making sure that our officers are not doing the jobs that they don't need to be doing. And so empowering our crisis responders to respond to mental health crimes and allowing DPW and DDOT to handle traffic enforcement and traffic safety. It means making sure that our community, that when we bring cases for accountability of people, we have an accredited crime lab that actually works, and that when a crime happens, the 911 call center works and can get people there dispatched quickly. It also means,
thank you so much. Okay, you are watching the Ward 7 Democratic mayoral primary debate here on WUSA9. Up next, we're going to take some questions from Ward 7 residents and the audience. Stay right here. Welcome back to the Ward 7 Democratic primary mayoral debate featuring Kenyan McDuffie and Janeese Lewis George. Let's continue our conversation. This one is about health. According to data from Georgetown University School of Health, Ward 7 has about 91,000 residents, but only 3 grocery stores. Compare that to 17 in Ward 3. So what specific steps will you take to bring full-service grocery stores to Ward 7, and how many new stores should residents expect, and by when? Ms. Lewis George, will start with you.
Thank you. Food access is one of the worst disparities we're facing in D.C., where you're right, we have a ward with 18 grocery stores and a ward with 1. It is a priority for me to make sure that Ward 7 gets a new grocery store with fresh food, and that Ward 8 also gets at least 2 additional grocery stores. And what we're going to do is make sure that we have a public and private partnership. That means the district has to invest the dollars. Because of the fact that many people are not willing to invest dollars themselves, we have to show up and let a provider know that we are willing to invest the dollars if it means sustaining food access for district residents, because food access is health outcomes. Food access is a health and justice issue that really impacts our community. So Ward 7 and Ward 8 residents can expect from me the same leadership that I've always given, to show up and figure out how we make this happen. And it's going to be, if we have to do a public-owned grocery store, we will work towards that. But I believe that we have so many great providers actually in this city that a public-private partnership can work with the right investment dollars and the right support to make that happen.
All right, Mr. McDuffie.
The first home that my wife and I bought was in Ward 7 in Marshall Heights. I know what it feels like not to have access to healthy food options in the vicinity of where you live, and have to always get in your car to go to another jurisdiction to get that. So one of the reasons why I got involved in the organization to help advocate and bring the Skyland project to life finally. And I was happy as a council member to help cut the ribbon, because that project includes a Lidl, a grocery store right there in Ward 7. We're going to make sure that we're bringing more grocery stores to Ward 7. I've worked directly with Ward 7 Councilmember Wendell Felder to make sure that we're working on a Capital Gateway project. Actually, when we negotiated RFK, we also put in incentives to bring 2 grocery stores to Ward 7, one at the side of the RFK campus and another one in another location in Ward 7, because I know what it's like not to have access to healthy food options. We're going to do that for Ward 8 as well. We're going to work to make sure we have to incent the type of activity we want when it comes to grocery stores, to make sure that there is equitable access to healthy food options and equitable access to health care.
Thank you, Mr. McDuffie. So we know that Ward 7 also still faces gaps in emergency and specialized health care. The new Cedar Hill Regional Medical Center has struggled with staffing shortages and leadership turnover, and there are serious concerns right now about patient safety. Meanwhile, the planned freestanding ER at Fletcher Johnson is delayed. So what specific actions would you take to ensure residents have reliable, quality health care, and by when? Mr. McDuffie.
Oh, we're going to prioritize that from day one when I become mayor of the District of Columbia, because Ward 7 and 8 deserve better access to primary care. And right now, Cedar Hill is failing on its promise. We need to hold UHS accountable to deliver what they said they would when we passed and built Cedar Hill. We need to make sure that we're better working with our federally qualified health centers as well, to make sure that we're increasing access to quality and affordable health care to residents in Ward 7 and Ward 8. I'm going to make sure that we prioritize that as mayor, because healthy communities are safe communities, and we need to make sure that we are putting that at the top of the list. And when I'm mayor, we're going to do just that, because Ward 7 deserves better than what they're getting right now.
Ms. Lewis George.
Yeah. The health outcomes in our city, we have to do better. And we have to prioritize making sure that Cedar Hill is successful. This is why it's important, though I want to note to residents, this is why it's important to have a mayor who is ready to negotiate a real deal for residents. Because when the deal was being negotiated, when my colleague was on the council for Cedar Hill, the residents of Ward 7 asked for it to be a Trauma 1 center, and it didn't happen. The residents of Ward 7 told them that they needed to make sure they had pre and postnatal care. They made it a part of the deal that should happen, and many of those things fell through. So that's why you need a person who's have a deal. So for me, it's going to be putting the oversight board in place over Cedar Hill, where there's currently 2 mayoral vacancies that are currently there that won't be vacant on the first day that I am mayor.
But yeah, sure. So that deal was negotiated years ago. I asked Ms. Lewis George what she's done in the 5 years since she's been here. She hasn't authored a single measure to address the issues that she's seen at Cedar Hill. And so I'm not just going to talk about things and point the finger. That's exactly what residents don't need right now. They need a mayor that's serious about leadership, and that's going to prioritize turning things around and holding UHS accountable and delivering more resources and investment in our federally qualified health centers until we get Ward 7 and 8 the primary care they deserve.
Ms. Lewis George, would you like to respond?
Cedar Hill was just delivered. Meanwhile, my opponent has been the chair of the Business and Economic Development Committee for 8 years. And under his leadership, Ward 7 has still been waiting for a grocery store that says coming soon. Under his leadership, they cut the ribbon too soon on Cedar Hill, and now residents are upset. Under his leadership, the nurses in that hospital who asked for good patient ratios and support haven't gotten what they needed. So I have actually shown up to make sure that we don't go down that hill again. So when he talks about what could have been done or who should have done it, you've been on the council for 13 years and 8 years as the chair of Business and Economic Development. What have you done?
Mr. McDuffie.
Sure. I mean, I just talked about delivering a grocery store at the Skyland project and all the work that I've done to make sure that that was going to happen. And it happened. And I just talked about how I worked with my colleague Wendell Felder to negotiate for 2 new grocery stores in Ward 7. So I want people to follow the facts and not just the rhetoric. Look at the results that what people have done since they've been elected. I've delivered transformational programs like the first guaranteed basic income program in this city's history, delivering direct assistance to pregnant and expecting moms in Wards 7 and 8.
Thank you. I also want to give a big thank you to Dr. Christopher King, the inaugural dean of the School of Health at Georgetown University, who researched and provided some exclusive Ward 7 data on our social determinants of health. Okay, now let's get to some Ward 7 residents here in the audience with us, and they have questions for both of you. First up, we have Yvette Alexander, former Ward 7 council member.
Good evening. My question is for Janeese Lewis George. Ms. George, the D.C. has lost a lot of its federal employees due to layoffs and other determinants that our downtown area is now a ghost town. What will you do as mayor to grow our economy?
Thank you. I think this is a great question. And what I want to do is make sure DC is a city of choice. That means residents say yes to wanting to be here, and businesses do too. And that's why for our small businesses, we're going to end the red tape and streamline processes and make sure people don't have to go to several agencies to get things done. It's also why we're going to leverage. DC, we talk a lot about being a sports town. We're a sports town, but we're also a university town. And we're also a hospital town. And we're going to leverage our universities and our hospitals to create a space of innovation for our city and grow our downtown and innovation hubs and districts and allow our universities and our hospitals to anchor them. And one of the best things about that is that hospitals and universities are the top employers in every city. We're also going to leverage our labor, because DC is a labor town, to create trades and vocational education connection to young people as early as 6th grade so that they can learn how to be carpenters, how to be electricians, how to be entrepreneurs, and actually have a pathway to growth, and make sure that our universities are providing associate's degrees and pathways to create pipelines for our city and rebuild our city as we grow.
Mr. McDuffie.
Thank you.
Sure, I thought that question was for Janeese Lewis George.
You can respond if you would like to.
Oh, I would love to respond to that question. So I actually made DC the sports capital of the United States and was happy to negotiate when Monumento came to town asking for renovation of their facility. And I worked to make sure that we negotiated with labor to have good paying labor jobs and to have opportunities for our small businesses so that they can create jobs and create a pathway for our people to get those jobs. And I've been doing that work since I've been on the Council of the District of Columbia. And when I'm mayor, we're going to make sure that we lean all the way into innovation, that we can look at what cities like Austin, Texas are doing with their partnerships with their universities. We've done some really great work already, like the work that I've done to bring Station DC to Union Market. It's the front door for tech companies in the District of Columbia. They vastly expanded their membership, and you're seeing new capital and founders come to the District of Columbia. We're going to make sure that we invest more in downtown, but we're taking this show on the road to the communities because neighborhoods need investment in businesses as well. And we're going to grow our economy by focusing on small business creation, the same way that I've done as council member, investing in main streets and business-proven districts.
We have another question now from Kendrick Newman, a senior at Ron Brown. Kendrick.
Hello, this question is for the both of you. Do you guys believe our government has let our young people down by not providing enough safe, meaningful, and accessible spaces for us to socialize and connect? What experiences or observations have shaped your view on that? What would you do differently as mayor?
Mr. McDuffie.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think it's been disproportionately weighted to communities that have wealth. And so it's one of the reasons why I've done my work through a lens of equity to make this city more racially equitable, more socially just, and more economically inclusive. We're going to make sure that we are showing up to usher in opportunity into communities that have been pushed to the margins, where you have people living in the shadows. We're going to bring them out of the shadows and into the light by investing in their communities, working with neighborhood-based organizations who have quality programs that meet their needs in their communities, so they don't have to leave to go to places like Navy Yard or U Street. We're going to show up in a way that no mayor ever has before, because I know what opportunity looks like. When I was 17-year-old, I couldn't get a job. That post office job saved my life. And so I'm going to show up for young folks in Ward 7 and Ward 8, parts of Ward 5, and other communities that have been starving for resources and programming for years, working with the credible messengers and others in their communities who know them better than anybody else, to make sure that we're creating the program, but also using our agencies to deliver the resources that they already have.
Ms. Lewis George.
Thank you. I want our youth to know one thing as mayor: I love you and I support you, and I would never demonize you. I know your brilliance and your talent, and I want to invest in that. And I'm going to do that by investing in your education, making sure that you have schools, no matter where you live in the city, that are accessible to you and have quality program like dual language and STEM programming. I'm going to make sure that you have after-school programs and in-school programs that make you want to be in school, by investing in music and investing in the arts and investing in sports. I'm going to make sure that you also have DPR centers that have hours on the weekends and long hours at nights. I want to make sure that you have spaces and places for you to hang out and go, like I did as a young person. I'm going to expand our summer youth employment program, which was so meaningful in my life, and make sure that you have access to good internships and good placement through our summer youth program, raise the wages for that program, and also make sure that those programs are year round. So during spring break and during the summer break, you also have access to earning and learning as you go.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis George. Also, thank you to Yvette and Kendrick for your questions. We'll take more from the audience in just a moment, but I want to continue because we know that a lot of DC residents are also concerned about growth and also how you two will govern. We know that you both are participating in DC's Fair Elections program, which limits donations and is designed to reduce outside influence in local races. But both of you have recently raised concerns about the sources of money in this race for mayor. Mr. McDuffie, at a recent forum, you warned about, quote, dark money coming out of New York. What specifically are you referring to, and do you believe any outside spending is improperly influencing this race?
What I'm saying is, I'm not going to run a campaign based on falsehoods or false promises for programs that people can't deliver on when they're mayor. I'm going to tell the truth and be honest. I am engaged in the Fair Elections program, which I advocated for as a council member and held a hearing to make sure that it happened. And there is money coming from outside, based in New York, that are telling lies about utilities and my relationships. And the reality is, it's false, right? We want to make sure that we are based on DC and focused on DC residents. And I'm running a campaign powered by DC residents. And that's what people want right now. They don't want politics that are dragging people down. I'm lifting people up with the campaign in the same way that I've governed. It's building a big tent, inviting people in, and really laying out a vision of economic growth with guardrails. The reality is this: when it comes to who's accepted what, my opponent has accepted donations from outside influences, including lobbyists and gas and utilities.
Thank you. So, Ms. Lewis George, at a recent forum, you also said some candidates are taking, quote, big Trump donor dollars. Who exactly are you referring to, and what evidence do you have to support that claim?
Thank you. I think it's important. My opponent keeps talking about New York, and he's focused on New York, and I'm focused on DC. And why I'm focused on DC is because I've been talking to residents across this city, which is why I have the most DC donors in this race, because DC residents believe in my vision for people first, and they know that I've shown up for them. When I'm referring to big Trump donor dollars, I am referring to Mr. McDuffie, who has accepted big Trump donor dollars from the same people who funded Trump's campaign to get reelected and elected, are the same people funding Mr. McDuffie's campaign. So I think the real question is, Mr. McDuffie, will you return those big Trump donor dollars so district residents know you actually will have their back?
Mr. McDuffie, do you care to respond?
I'm accepting fair election money the same way that my opponent is. The reality is, she's also accepting money from lobbyists and others who are associated with utility companies. The same people that she's talking about are weighing in on this campaign. I'm going to be honest with people and tell them what I'm going to deliver for the District of Columbia. I'm going to fight and deliver a city that works for more people, that is more affordable, and that's more opportunity rich. These donations she's talking about, she's running a campaign based on division. the Democratic Socialists of America,
Ms.
the
Lewis
things
George,
that they're spewing.
do you care to
She's
respond?
taken a pledge to divide this city and not
Thank you,
engage
Mr.
with certain
McDuffie.
communities.
Thank you, Mr. McDuffie. Ms. Lewis George, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would like to respond. My campaign is being supported by DC residents, over 5,000 DC residents who have invested. And our average donation for our campaign has only been about $75. His has been $200. Mine is $75 because workers every day have invested in our campaign. I had workers who I stood up for during the pandemic when they were trying to stop cleaning hotels, and all of them sent me a video just giving $5 each day. But that was enough for me. I have been endorsed by over 18 labor unions, by Free DC. The teachers are with me. The nurses are with me. So many of our DC workers are with me, and that's because I'm with them.
Thank you. Okay, we'd like to get some more questions now from Ward 7 residents in our audience. And right now we have Valario Johnson, Hillcrest Community Association President.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Ward 7 residents want and need results. They need specifics, not promises. Name one policy you enact within your first 90 days as mayor that will directly benefit Ward 7 residents. Tell us how you're going to fund it, illustrate how you're going to accomplish it, and tell us how we know it worked. And then tell us what have you done prior to running for mayor that benefited Ward 7. Talk is easy.
Mr. McDuffie.
Past performance is the best indicator of future success.
Mr. McDuffie.
I'm going to make sure we deliver on RFK. We worked really hard. I was in the room negotiating to make sure that we have a project that's going to create thousands of jobs for Ward 7, Ward 8, Ward 5 residents, going to create thousands of opportunities for our small businesses across the District of Columbia, but prioritizing those communities with the greatest needs, including Wards 7, Wards 8, and Ward 5. That's the work that I've been doing. I've been in the room negotiating to make sure that we have a labor peace agreement and project labor agreements on that project as well, making sure that we're delivering for folks. In Ward 7, I've worked on Skyland project. I've made sure that we have ushered in public safety. I've done walks in communities across Ward 7. I've set up shop, a community office at the intersection of Minnesota Avenue and Benning Road, delivering safer communities, working with advisory neighborhood commissioners and civic leadership to make sure that we have safe communities. I'm working with the police department to ensure that those communities are safe, and I'm going to continue to do that as mayor on the very first day that I get sworn in.
Ms. Lewis George.
Thank you. I think RFK is important, and I want to be clear that my opponent was ready to take the deal on the first day. We got to get this passed. It was myself and my colleague, Councilmember Parker, who stayed in the room to the very end. When people who are supporting my opponent right now were on video saying they're going to kill the deal by fighting for DC residents and workers, but we didn't. We delivered and made sure we had district jobs with benefits and for district residents. We also prioritized the people in that community in Ward 7. So that they would have actual environmental safety needs that would be met, so they wouldn't be ingesting air and ingesting water that wasn't safe because of that runoff. We stood in the room and made sure that that deal got done. And we're going to stay in that room to make sure that it delivers for Ward 7 residents, because it is on Ward 7 land, and anything less than that would be an extraction. So we're going to accelerate housing on that campus. We're going to make sure the sports actually get to the youth and the young people on that, that it benefits the young people who actually go to school in Ward 7. We are going to make sure that Ward 7 workers and Ward 7 businesses and contractors have a space in the development of that entire parcel and project.
Ms. Lewis George. Now we have Laura Richards here with us, a Ward 7 resident. We're going to get to this question now from Ms. Richards.
Ms. Lewis George, you proposed that small apartment buildings up to 6 units should be allowed on all residential lots throughout the city. Have you considered how this will devastate Black home ownership, and what would you propose to do about that? And I'd also like to hear Mr. McDuffie's response.
Thank you. We have to be aggressive about beating our housing goals. And one of the things that's important for me is that we allow more opportunity for us to create housing, but it also allows us the opportunity for people to create wealth in our city. And so I wanted to do two things. One, create more housing here in our city and allow for current homeowners to utilize those spaces to create more housing for other DC residents. And so for me, when I think about it, if we have more working people in our city who have access to housing, it's better for us. The number one complaint we always get is that our district workers have been displaced out of this city into other parts of this region, to Maryland and Virginia. And so we just saw when we had the snowstorm, many of those people had to stay overnight in a hotel because they don't live in D.C. because we haven't made it affordable. So we have to produce more housing, and we have to do so in a smart way. And we also have to open the door of opportunity for Black D.C. residents. And that is what my proposal plans to do, and is why I'm excited to support that.
Mr. McDuffie.
We have to build more housing in the District of Columbia, and we have to do it across all wards of the city, in particular those areas that have high need and need affordable housing. We're going to double down on programs like the Housing Purchase Assistance Program and the Employee Purchase Assistance Program to make sure more people can actually afford to buy homes in the District of Columbia. I know the value of owning a home. I own a home that's been in my family for 3 generations. But I also know that when it comes to actually showing up for people who need housing, built the District of Columbia, my opponent voted against the Rental Act. I know that when it comes to showing up for people who have 4-unit apartment buildings and want to try to build some wealth, my opponent voted against the measure that would allow the exemption of TOPA for those small landlords in the District of Columbia who are just trying to make an investment that maybe they can pass on to somebody in their family or invest in themselves to build a little bit of wealth. I have a history of being able to deliver, like the Commercial Property Acquisition Fund that allows small business owners to purchase their commercial properties.
Thank you, Mr.
That's the work
McDuffie.
that I've delivered for D.C. residents.
Would you care to respond, Ms. Lewis
Yes,
George?
actually, let's speak about it. We just had the RFK deal. We introduced an amendment within that deal that would have created an anti-displacement fund so that Black residents wouldn't be displaced. My opponent voted against the anti-displacement fund. My opponent voted to take away TOPA rights from single-family residents by multifamily business owners. This is one of the key tools we have to prevent displacement in this city of Black and brown D.C. residents, and he voted to take those rights away from district residents. So it's clear whose side he has been on, and I've been on the side of the people.
Would you like to respond?
What my opponent must have forgot, because she wasn't actually in the room, is that we actually worked with Councilmember Felder and we delivered an amendment that created the Community Investment Fund. It's going to take millions of dollars that is revenue that's generated from the RFK project and put it into displacement prevention. We're going to keep people in Ward 7 and communities that are going to feel the expansion that's happening around them because we want to protect them. We put that in the measure that got passed, and I believe she voted for it. I know that it's in there because I was in the room actually negotiating the deal.
We are running out of time, and it is time now for closing statements. Ms. Lewis George, you have 2 minutes to talk directly to D.C. voters.
Thank you. I want to thank Ward 7 for this debate and this opportunity to speak to you. And I want to say I'm glad to be back with you because that's what it's about. It's about who has shown up, who do you trust, and who's been fighting with you and for you. I am running for mayor because I have seen time and time again the way leadership has not stood up for D.C. residents in this city, hasn't stood up for Black and brown D.C. residents, and have misused tons of taxpayer dollars in continuing pay-to-play politics that doesn't serve any of our needs. This moment calls for a leader who can be trusted, but who has shown up and who has courage. And so I am fighting for a city where all of us have a space where we can afford housing in this city, where we can afford childcare, where we can afford utilities. And that is the city that I am fighting for. A place where all of our children are safe. And they not only are safe, they feel safe, and they feel supported by their government, who make sure that they have the tools, the training, the education, and the opportunities they need. I am fighting for my mother generation of seniors who deserve a place in the city so that they can age in place with grace and have what they need. And that's why, as council member, I have shown up. That's why I was able to raise the wages for early childhood educators, Black and brown women. It's why I created the earned income tax credit that goes into pockets of families every day. It's why I save librarians in schools, and it's why I fixed some of the small issues like your trash collection and safe streets for students, right? And that's what this race is about. Who has shown up and who is actually going to be there for you and trust you? I will submit to you that the leaders of this city and the people of this city are waiting for a leader who has bold ideas and visions, but also have the track record at getting it done. So I'm ready to stand up to Trump and this administration and protect DC statehood and our autonomy. I'm ready to provide a city that's people first for all of us. And I am ready to do that because that's what I have been doing. And I look forward to doing it alongside you all. As my grandmother would say, you don't believe what people say, you watch what they do. And you've watched me over the last 6 years show up for you, and that's how I'm going to show up for you as your next mayor.
Mr. McDuffie, you have 2 minutes.
Leadership is measured by by what you say, but by what you do. And what my opponent, Janeese Lewis George, has done is say that she will divest from the police, making it less safe than the District of Columbia. What she's done is vote against affordable housing projects. What she's done is every time it comes up, she makes sure that she is working to make this city less safe when it comes to policing, when it comes to curfews. She won't vote to extend the curfew. I will, because I know that I want to keep those young folks in the District of Columbia safe. What we need is somebody who's going to fight for all DC. Somebody who's going to show up to make sure that we keep this city safe, who delivers a city that's more affordable, that's more opportunity rich across the District of Columbia. Somebody who's going to show up in communities to usher in opportunity with the same sense of urgency as if somebody's called 911. We need to make sure that we deliver a city that's more accountable to residents across this city. And I'm not going to do that when I'm mayor of the District of Columbia. What I'm not going to do is sell you on false promises. What I'm not going to do is divest from the police. What I'm not going to do is raise your taxes. And what I'm going to do is stand up and fight for all Washington, D.C. I want to thank Channel 9. I want to thank Ward 7 for creating this environment for us to have this conversation. This is the most consequential mayoral election of our lifetime. And right now, more than ever, we need leadership that's going to stand up to fight back against Trump, to protect our home rule, and deliver a city that is safer. I'm going to deliver a city that's safe, a city that's more affordable, a city that has more opportunity in places that need it most, and I'm going to deliver the housing that we need across incomes. Thank you.
Mr. McDuffie, thank you so much. Ms. Lewis George, thank you for
you.
being part of this process and also sharing your vision with DC voters. What a
Thank
conversation, huh?
Thank you, Lorenzo.
All right,
Thank you,
and
Lorenzo.
thank you for joining us tonight for the Ward 7 Democratic primary mayoral debate. Thank you to our audience, Ward 7 residents. Again, a big thank you to Janeese Lewis George and Kenyan McDuffie. Again, these are the only two candidates who qualified for tonight's debate, though 5 other candidates will appear on the ballot. The primary election will be held on June 16th, and early voting begins June 8th. It is also worth mentioning again, this will be the first election using ranked choice voting. So make sure you are familiar with that process. Also, if you missed any part of tonight's debate or want to rewatch, you can stream it on WUSA9 Plus or go to WUSA9.com. And we'll be covering this race every week on the DC Beat. For all of us here at WUSA9, good night. See you soon.
Thanks, Lorenzo.